I'm Ed Berry. I've been a conventional logger for over 50 years. In 1996, due to pressure from our workers' compensation insurance, we went through the CLP logger training and became strong proponents of the CLP and its mission to produce safer loggers. That's why we want to share 5 techniques we've developed in response to the 5 biggest problems conventional loggers face daily. These techniques tweak the CLP training and produce even better, more productive, safer loggers who control every tree until it's harvested, no matter what or where. The first tree that we deals with problems 1 and 2. The first problem is the strong hinge. The strength of the hinge is important in the felling technique, but the problems that you face with too strong a hinge is that if you hit any obstacle on the way down, and most of these trees don't grow in a cornfield, then you'll either, when it hits the object, it'll either face split or barber chair. So what you generally do is they teach you to wing cut. A wing cut is to take the blade of the saw and cut off the cambium wood, the new growth wood, on the outside edges. But when you do that, you add side lean to the tree towards the bad side, and sometimes during the descent, the fall of the tree, you lose direction of it. The tree may go sideways, but generally, you either crack the tree or you lose control of it to the point where you don't place the tree where you want to and you damage the tree. Our 2 first techniques are what we call a rolling face saver and a stabilizer. The rolling face saver works on the center of the hinge. The idea is to allow that hinge to still be the holding force that it's meant to be, but you have to give it a little bit of ability to move and to turn when it encumbers an object, either up in the air on a limb of another tree, or a rock, or a stump, or a tree in front of it, and that's what we're going to show you with this tree. Also, on a stabilizer, what we do is like the outriggers of a truck. We penetrate the stump on both sides. We do take care of the cambium wood, but we're trying to produce something that holds the tree in the direction that we want it to fall in until it hits the ground. We'll show that in this video. Okay, what you're looking for here is to see what kind of obstacles we had for the tree landing. Closest to us, we had these trees and that rock. So we knew that when that tree touched them before the fell was completed, that this butt was going to raise in the air. Didn't want the face to split, didn't want any cracking, didn't want the tree to come back or move in any direction. Looking out beyond, you also got a big rock out there, so that's why when I got ready to cut, stabilize the cut by using the stabilizer cut. You drive it in until, I generally go in until the bar tip is buried on both outsides at a usually a 70 degree angle on both outsides. By doing that, instead of using wing cuts, I do not add to the side lean of the tree. All I do is cut the outside hardwood, the cavernous wood on the outside, and by doing that, I've loosened up the tree, but I've also created stabilizers. Alright? That, and then I knew I wanted this tree to roll when it hit, rather than having the direct impact of the trees and the tree out beyond, the rock out beyond. So, because I wanted it to roll slightly, but not go anywhere, I put in a rolling face saver. You point it in the direction in which you want the tree to roll. I wanted this tree to roll that way, so I put it in this way. If the rock had been on the other side and I'd wanted the tree to roll the other way, I would have put it in this angle. Again, I use about a 70 degree angle on a face saver. You can, if the tree was bigger, I might have used 2. But my idea is I want 3/4 to an inch of hinge. I want it uniform, and I don't want to cut any more of it than I have to. I still want control of the tree. Of course, in gamer logging, you're looking for an 80% hinge if possible. So figuring this tree without the swell of it, I've got a good 80% even with these cuts that I've made. Because your wing cut, all it does is go on the outside past, you're going out past where the hinge is anyway. So all I actually took out of the hinge was this small portion here. This cut back in here allows it to do this when it hits. If it hit the other way, it could do it when you had it cut this way, it would rotate this way. You look at the butt of it, this is what happens when it hits. As you notice, it did not come back past vertical of this, of the stump. If you had stood there, because say the rocks was closer here and I wasn't able to get back out of the way and I'd had to stand, my escape route had been more this way. You don't want that tree to come back because anything can happen. You can slip and fall or whatever. So you want to maintain the tree in the position that it was at. You want to get it as close to perpendicular to the stump and not back. You don't care so much if it goes ahead a little, but you don't want it coming back towards you. You look at this, this is the result of a stabilizer. It pulls fiber out of the stump, and what it does is like the outriggers of a truck. It maintains pressure on both sides, and it keeps that tree true to the direction that you're aiming it at until these are pulled out of the stump. Now the length of these will be determined by the angle that you insert into the stump. If you insert at a greater angle, then you'll have a longer stabilizer. I didn't need a longer one, so that's, you know, about par for the course, about that distance right there. But as I say, I like to bury the tip when I do all of my plunge cuts in the front. Every time that I cut into the stump, I want to bury the tip. That's about 6 inches or so. And I found that no matter what, that is more than enough. But yet, you don't have to worry about it. You're sawing into the wood of the tree. Okay, I set a wedge on this one because it was about standing almost straight, slight back lean. And I wanted to have pressure enough on it so when it went, that even with the wind blowing a little bit, it was going to go right where I wanted it to go. And as you can see, that's the result that we was looking for is what we got. The tree is not cracked, and that's a big thing because this is a small log, but right here I'm supposed to cut this diameter wood, so this will be a small rock maple log or else it'll be a high-end pallet either way, but at least it's a log quality tree and you don't want to crack it. And these cuts will avoid the cracking. As you can see, this tree was lifted in the air quite a bit, so it does work because you're talking, I'm 6'3", so this tree is 5.5 feet or better to the top of it off the ground now. And we work in a lot of rocky areas, you'll see in a minute. And when you're working in those, you got to be worried about the elevation of the tree when it leaves the stump. And you got to do something to maintain this face. Otherwise, you could have the tree barber chair or whatever you want to call it, split, crack, break, go up in the air. All those things are bad for the tree and bad for you. Our desire is to show you that we're going to use the strength of the tree's fiber against itself in order to cause it to descend at a rate that we decide upon. I've had people ask me, well, how do you cut this species of tree? How do you cut that species of tree? And I tell them that what I do to one tree on the face of it, as far as using face savers and stabilizers, I do to every tree. You'll find in our business that the more you do it, the better you are at it and the faster you are. And it is all about production and speed as well as safety.
Go ahead.
Okay, that tree probably had 5 feet of forward lean. Okay, so I did the same thing to the stump that I did with the other tree down there that I knew was going to hit something and bounce up. I knew this one was going to catch that white birch and probably slide by. Being a veneer stick, I didn't want it to either crack the face or crack either point of the corner. Okay, on the stabilizers, this time, as I said, you can go at a more of an angle if you want it. Well, you can't see real well because it's laying inside the dirt, but it's right. It's a lot longer stabilizer. It's probably, well, that's probably 4 inches long. This stabilizer here, probably 4 inches long, by going in at a greater angle. Pulled out fiber from way down below the hinge. It did not pull out the hinge. It pulls out from below the hinge because of the angle that it comes at. That makes it stay stationary. This one I wasn't worried about because it's on the outside and that's the way it was going to roll, so I could care less. I pulled a little bit of fiber but went in pretty near perpendicular. This one I wanted to pull more fiber so it would roll. Okay, again, I wanted this tree to roll in that direction, off from that birch and anything else it might hit. So I went in this angle and I used 2 of them because I still have this much holding wood, this much holding wood, and this much holding wood. So I'm not losing much by going the rolling face saver. You're losing this little bit in each place. But it allows that tree to pivot. You've got control of it. The weight of the tree is forcing these pieces down into the stump. So you've got control of it like the outriggers of a truck until they pull out and clear. Okay? Now when I cut the tree, it was all cut off with forward lean. It should have wanted to fall immediately when I touched the back of it. But I used what I call a slow release cut because this piece of pie, I cut it off from the back of the tree afterwards, was here on the tree. I cut everything else off except for this piece here. Then I went down underneath, much like the beaver tail, only in a beaver tail you go with as much room as you have on the front. Now on the hinge, you try to go on the back, you go to here. But I only wanted to just slow the tree up. So what I did was cut underneath of this pie-shaped area here, right here, down about 4 inches. You got to go about 4 inches. You can go a little deeper, but about 4 inches is good. Then I had to insert a wedge here because although that tree had a forward lean to it, it wouldn't move until I started it up. As I started it up, this twisted fiber of the stump had to pull itself out through here slowly until it cleared here. At that point, that tree was at a forward lean of probably 40 degrees, and that slows up the amount of area of descent from the time that it actually pulls out and releases until it hits the ground. So that tree was probably about this much while I still had it under control of all the hooks in the front. And then that was able to allow it, when it to hit, to just slide over gently rather than to hit with wicked force on them rocks and to bounce and to split. And so I like the release cut. You may have to pull a wedge out of your pocket in order to drive over a forward leaner, but on a veneer yellow birch or a veneer rock maple or oak or that type of wood, sometimes it's worth the effort. wouldn't be without them. But you save the tree, save yourself, and it works. The next two trees that we will cut, we want to show you a technique to handle maybe the most serious problem that loggers face every day. We call this cut the beaver tail cut. There are some trees that are too big, have too much lean, are in too bad a spot, so that it really isn't safe or productive to take a hammer and a wedge and try to fell these trees. Instead, the hammer and the wedge are your skidder. But the big problem is, you need to remember that if you open-face notch, produce a hinge, do anything you want to the face of the tree, that after you've bore cut that tree and left a strap on the back, you've got to remove that strap so that nothing is holding before that skidder will push that tree over. The problem is, when you make that last cut and remove that strap, you are then increasing the back lean of the tree and putting more stress and tension on your hinge. You add the other elements of maybe the wind or a lot of the tree or different problems that a tree may have, and you're adding more and more stress to that hinge. Some loggers have given their life heading for the skidder to get it to come in to push the tree. When they turned their back, there was a snap, and before they got to the skidder, the tree got them. What the beaver tail does is it removes the fiber of the tree so that a skidder can successfully push the tree. The pictures will show you that we do exactly the same cut on this tree and the next tree as we have the previous ones, as far as the open face notch, establishing your hinge, then bore cutting. You bore cut back on the tree until you've reached an area where the diameter is about the same as the length of your hinge. At that point, pull your saw out and reach down at least 4 inches. 6 inches is a little better. If you do it at 4 inches, you might want to angle the saw towards down into the butt of the tree a little bit more. But make your cut in the back that removes all the fiber for the area that you left when you pulled it out from your bore cut. So all the wood fiber is actually severed. At this point, the tree is actually ready to be pushed. There's nothing more for you to do. The tree will set there. It will not set back. It will not set down. You could actually put your saw back into the cut where you bored, and there's still room for it because there's no pressure being added by the fact that you've removed the fiber. The fiber in the stump, the characteristics of it are so twisted and so strong that tree will not set back and add any to the lean, or will it stress your hinge. That allows you now time to go back to get your skidder, or in our case, my son brought the skidder in, but there's nothing happening with the tree. It is all cut, it is all ready, and at your convenience, you can push the tree over. When he gets ready to push it, you're going to see that the skidder is going to back into it due to the fact that there is about 5 to 8 feet of back lean to the tree, and it's a little bit soft there. It's hard to get traction, and he also needs, because of the ground, the upswing of it, to get higher on the tree so as not to push into it to overstress the hinge. Remember, you're using the skidder in place of a hammer and a wedge. And when you do it, you'll notice that Robert does it gently, and that's how you ought to do it. You get contact with it and then slowly bring it up, and when it starts to leave, you just drive out. It's just because it's a skidder. You're not looking to use brute force and ignorance. Remember, this is a technique. It's not just power, but it works. The last problem that we're going to look at is a problem that has happened a lot recently with storm damaged trees, also with trees that have stress or tension on them. Sometimes they're made when you drop a tree down through the canopy, and the result is you injure a tree or bend a tree, And if it's not a swing pole, how do you handle it? A tree like that has a lot of pent-up energy in it, and you've got to have a way of taking that energy out of the tree and not getting hurt by it. We call it the lay down method. What I want to do in this is I want to, instead of felling the tree and releasing all that energy forward and wherever the butt or the top may end up, I want to lay this tree on its side, holding it to the stump, and allow just the top of the tree to release the energy. So take a good look at the tree. See where the good side and the bad side is. Of course, the good side is the side that is safe to stand on, because the lean of the tree, the slight, maybe even a slight lean, is to the opposite direction. So standing on the good side of the tree, make an open-faced notch to the bent angle of the tree. Then, using the tip of the bar, the good side of the bar, slowly start removing the fiber from the front to the back. As you work your way across the face of the tree, the object is to leave a strap on the far side, on the bad side. As you're doing this, the tree will at the same time be laying over in a 90-degree angle from the original open-face notch. With the strap still holding the tree, the energy will be passed on through to the top of the tree. In fact, you'll see in one photo where the top of the tree actually spikes the ground and makes a hole, but yet it does not break the strap that you're holding by, and lays on its side gently. All the energy is out of the tree, and it's ready to be limbed and processed. I've used this technique on trees upwards of 18 inches or bigger, and it always works the same way. I also use it on hazard trees where the tops are broke and hung into other trees, so that when I release it, rather than felling forward and the top come crashing down, if you release it or you just lay it on its side, that top will come down real slow, and it'll give you a chance to watch it and be able to move if necessary from where you're standing. But generally you can just stand there after you've completed the cut and watch it lay down, and then you're ready to harvest the tree. In summary, we hope that you will continue to use your CLP training, adding these problem-solving techniques so that you too will be a successful, productive logger and not a statistic. If you have any questions, contact me through CLP.